The phone rang at 17 m. I knew it was my sister before I even picked up. Twins learn the shape of each other's silence. When I answered, she didn't say my name. I just heard breathing, shaky, uneven, like she'd been holding it in too long. Then she whispered, "Please help me." The line went quiet again. Not disconnected, just careful. "What's wrong?" I asked. Another pause. I could almost hear her looking over her shoulder. "She's here," she said. "My niece." My sister's daughter had always been intense, ambitious in the way people admire from a distance but feel uneasy about up close. Successful, organized, efficient with people and problems. But what my sister said next didn't fit any version of that girl I remembered. "She won't let me leave." The words sounded rehearsed, like something she'd practiced saying, but never quite believed she'd get to say out loud. "She says it's for my safety." I sat up in bed. "Where are you?" "At home." Her penthouse. 40 floors above the river. The place her daughter insisted she move into after the divorce 3 years earlier. It had sounded generous at the time. Protective. "She monitors everything," my sister whispered. "Cal's. The door, the elevator." Then the line cut. No goodbye, just absence. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying her voice, the strange obedience in it. My sister had always been the softer one between us, but never frightened, and the more I thought about it, the more the past 3 years rearranged themselves. Cancelled visits, short calls, messages that always sounded like someone else had proofread them. 2 nights later, the phone rang again. This time she didn't waste time on explanations. "I have an idea," she said quietly. The building staff barely recognized her anymore. She rarely left the apartment. When she did, her daughter accompanied her. But the staff did know one thing. My sister had a twin. "Come tomorrow afternoon," she said. "Use the service elevator." The plan wasn't complicated, just risky. When I arrived, I kept my head down and wore my sister's oversized sunglasses. The doorman barely glanced up. Inside the penthouse, nothing looked like a prison. Floor to ceiling windows. Polished marble. A kitchen that belonged in magazines. My niece sat at the dining table with a laptop open, typing. She didn't even look at me when I walked in. "You weren't supposed to go downstairs," she said flatly. For a moment I forgot to breathe. She thought I was my sister. "I needed air," I said carefully. She sighed, the way someone sighs when a pet misbehaves. "You know the rules. The building staff already think you're confused." Confused. She said it like a diagnosis she'd already filed somewhere. I nodded and moved slowly through the apartment, trying to memorize everything. The cameras above the hallway, the tablet mounted on the wall that controlled the locks. Behind me, my niece kept working. 3 years of this, I thought. 3 years of being spoken to like a problem to manage. An hour later, while my niece took a phone call in the office, my sister slipped out through the service exit with a small overnight bag I'd hidden earlier. She walked past me without stopping. Neither of us said a word. The door closed softly behind her, and I stayed. The strange thing about sitting in someone else's captivity is how quickly you feel it. My niece monitored the apartment like a project manager. Medication reminders, financial reports, calendar alerts, labels, mom, CCK. When she spoke to me, it was always instructions. Eat this. Stay inside. Don't confuse the staff. I realized something unsettling. She didn't see cruelty in what she was doing. Only efficiency. Around 8 in the evening, she finally looked at me properly. "You've been very quiet today." I shrugged. Silence unsettled her more than defiance. She closed her laptop slowly. "You understand why these rules exist," she said. Not a question. A statement she expected compliance with. I didn't answer. The quiet stretched between us. Then the doorbell rang. One clear chime. My niece frowned. She hadn't scheduled anyone. When she opened the door, 2 people stood in the hallway. A city welfare officer and a legal investigator. Their badges were visible enough that even someone unfamiliar with the system would understand this wasn't casual. "Good evening," the officer said calmly. We're here to follow up on a guardianship welfare review. My niece's posture changed instantly. Professional mode. There must be some mistake, she said. My mother is perfectly safe. She gestured toward me in the living room. Proof. The officer stepped inside and glanced at me. Then I stood up. Up close, the resemblance between my sister and me is unsettling for people who haven't seen it before. The officer noticed immediately. My niece did too. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Who are you? She asked. My sister left about 6 hours ago, I said quietly. The room became very still. She's with legal counsel now, I continued. And the documents tied to her guardianship are currently being reviewed. The investigator opened a folder. Financial records. Transfer authorizations. Medical notes signed under pressure. My niece's carefully built system was suddenly just paperwork under scrutiny. She tried to recover. This is ridiculous, she said. My mother isn't well. Then that determination will be made independently, the officer replied. No anger, no accusation, just procedure. They began asking questions. Reviewing files. I stepped past them toward the door. My niece didn't stop me. For the first time since I'd entered the apartment, she looked uncertain. Outside, the hallway felt strangely quiet. I took the elevator down 40 floors. My sister was waiting in a taxi with the window rolled down. When she saw me, she didn't smile. Not yet, she just exhaled. Like someone who'd been holding the same breath for 3 years. Weeks passed. Lawyers sorted through documents. Investigators asked questions. My sister moved into a small apartment across town where she could open her own front door whenever she wanted. One afternoon we walked through a grocery store together. She stood in the cereal aisle for almost 5 minutes, staring at the shelves like they were something sacred. Freedom looks ordinary when you haven't had it. A month later, I received a message from my niece. Just one sentence. You changed everything. I stared at it for a long time. Restoring someone's dignity doesn't feel like victory. It feels more like removing a structure that should never have existed. And then standing there quietly while everyone realizes the family will never quite fit together the same way again.